Hi. the- Hi, this is the oral admin for Twins in Space Week 5 quiz. Number 1, what is the main idea of Twins in Space? This is the paragraph from paragraph 5. NASA is studying everything that happens to both twins during the year, with the goal of finding out how living in space affects the human body. They already know that astronauts often get headaches, their eyesight changes, their bones and muscles get weak, and they're more likely to get sick. Scientists wonder whether staying in space longer makes these problems worse. The twins are helping them answer these questions, and that will help prepare future astronauts for long missions to Mars or other distant places. Your choices are: everyone should go to space, astronauts often get headaches and their body changes in space, astronauts will eventually go to Mars, Mark and Scott Kelly are helping researchers understand how space impacts the human body. Number 2, what is the meaning of the word identical in paragraph 1? One day at breakfast, Mark Kelly couldn't resist sharing his food with his identical twin brother, Scott. He couldn't really share it because Scott was too far away, so he sent his brother a picture. Sometimes when he sends me pictures of his breakfast, I'm a little envious, Scott said in reply. But he knew his brother was just teasing him. Why would Scott feel jealous about breakfast? Because you can't get hot, fresh toast in space. The meaning of identical could be your first choice: excited, sad, exactly the same, or felt stressed. Number 3, why does Scott say that he is envious when he sees a picture of his brother's breakfast? One day at breakfast, Mark Kelly couldn't resist sharing his food with his identical twin brother, Scott. He couldn't really share it because Scott was too far away, so he sent his brother a picture. Sometimes when he sends me pictures of his breakfast, I'm a little envious, Scott said in reply. But he knew his brother was just teasing him. Why would Scott feel jealous about breakfast? Because you can't get hot, fresh toast in space. Your choices are: he missed his brother and wanted to have breakfast with him. He thought his brother's breakfast was gross. He couldn't get hot, fresh toast in space. He was excited to see breakfast for the first time in space. What is the difference between Mark and Scott's life? This is paragraph 4. Mark eats regular Earth food, exercises outside, and lives his life as usual. Scott only gets fresh food when cargo ships bring it to space. He can only exercise on a special zero-gravity treadmill and can't go outside without a spacesuit. There are other differences too. Up in space, Scott gets zapped with more energetic radiation than Mark. And of course, Scott floats around instead of walking. So your choices are: Mark lives just like the rest of us do, but Scott can't go outside or eat fresh food. Scott is an astronaut in space, but Mark isn't. Scott and Mark have two very different interests. Mark likes practical jokes, but Scott doesn't. What does comparison mean in paragraph 7? Space flight affects everyone a little differently, and every person's health is different. So how can you tell when changes in health are caused by being in space, and which would have happened anyway? If it would help if you could make a copy of your astronaut to stay on the ground as a comparison. Call in the twins. Comparison means, here's your choices: the examination of things to see how they are different, the substance in cells that determines the characteristics of a living thing, the examination of things to see how they are the same, parts of DNA in cells that contain the genes. What is the purpose of NASA's study on the twins? Your choices are: NASA wanted to see how the astronauts lived in space, NASA wanted to compare health changes on humans in space and on Earth, NASA was interested in finding out more about Mars, NASA wanted to know how identical twins lived in space. Next question: how are Scott and Mark different from other twins? I'm going to read paragraph 11 and 12. Giving samples might not be the first thing that comes to mind when you think about astronauts, but it's part of the job. And it's a job the Kelly brothers both wanted since they were little kids. Scott and Mark remember watching the 1969 Apollo 11 moon landing when they were 5 years old and plotting to build their own rocket. Eventually, they both joined the Navy and became test pilots. They both applied to NASA in 1995 and were chosen as astronauts the following year. They are the only pair of twins to both fly in space, but they have never been in space at the same time, and they've never switched places. Although on the day Scott blasted off for the International Space Station, Mark couldn't resist a little joke. He shaved off his mustache and startled the flight controllers when he walked in looking like Scott, who does not have a mustache. So how are they different from other twins? They look alike. They are the only pair of twins to both fly into space, but never at the same time. One twin is an astronaut and one isn't. They like to play practical jokes on each other. The next question. Why might the twins' health results be different from each other? I'll read 18, 19, and 20, the paragraphs. Radiation and stress can shorten telomeres too, Bailey says, and astronauts experience both. Imagine strapping yourself to a rocket, launching yourself to space, and staying there for a year, she says. This isolation, the physical stresses, the emotional stresses, and the radiation exposure, all the things we don't get here on Earth. When she looks at Scott's blood, she expects to see his telomeres getting shorter at a faster rate than his brother's. That means the stress of space is aging Scott more rapidly than Mark. So how are their twins' health different from each other? Your choices are: twins have different DNA. The twins might have grown up in two very different ways. Scott may have experienced radiation and stress that changed DNA. The twins have two very different health histories. The next question, what is the root word of the word celebration? Choices are bration, shun, celebrate, or cella. The last question, what is the correct prefix for the word happy in which the definition means not happy? Choices are dishappy, unhappy, de-happy, or de-happy.